and welcome to Rival Esports. Welcome to day 2 of our RLRS play-ins, where we kick things off with the European broadcast. We're going to find the 8 teams that will be qualifying from the European bubble scene to the RLRS. I'm the Eternal J. I'm being joined by my good friend, Not That Chrome, here for the first shift of today's proceedings. A lot of great matches coming up, a lot of big teams. And Chrome, you've been out the scene for a little bit of time, man. I have to ask, how are you doing, man?
It's been a while, Jay, but it's good to be back. I'm so glad to be on the mic here with you today. And of course, what more of an event could you ask for? The RLRS play-ins, that's what we are all here and we're all about. I mean, as you said, we're looking at some stellar matchups. I haven't been around a whole lot to be kind of clued in, but even I'm recognizing some of the names here. We've got some absolute scene diehards going on. So big excitement for that, lots of action, and just can't wait for it to all get started.
Yeah, we've got up to 7 best of 5s to be showing you today, and I can't wait because I'm going to be around for every single one of them, so I've got a long day ahead of me. If you don't like the Southern Mug, then I'm sorry, I'm to disappoint you. But our first match of the best of 5s that we will be having will be Flomp Resont taking on the Pepepitos Canyons. I think that's how you say it. I'm a little bit weird on how you that goes.
Spot on, mate. Spot on.
My spot on? Perfect. Awesome. There you go. I mean, we'll be going to Spain anyway later on this year, so you know it'll all be
RLCS season 8.
It'll be my chance to sort of learn the language and learn how to sort of say that sort of name. But as you say, some big sort of players that we're going to be seeing on the server today. A number of great guys. Godsmiller, though, Noli. Godsmiller, of course, famous for being on the Nordavind roster or the Placebo roster that previously had a pretty good showing in the last couple of seasons of RLRS. And of course, on the on the Pepepitos Cannon side, we've got Ghostfire, Mr. Ube, and Samuel that will be joining them over on the orange side of the court today. We're currently waiting on one Pepepitos player essentially to join the server, and we can get straight into the matchup. But yeah, this is a lot of really big names to start off today's broadcast, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just looking, kind of tracking back through the pool, both these guys going pretty big from what I'm seeing in the bracket. So obviously fighting for the playoff spot right here, but it looks like I'm not sure if they've just jumped into game already.
No, they're just doing a quick test to make sure that the server's
okay. All good.
Basically, we're just joining the server right now, and we're just getting to see whether the players are ready to rock and roll. For the most part, everyone is here, so we've only got a couple more moments before we begin on today's action. But yeah, again, I'm going to be excited for this first matchup. I think this possibly could be one of our really close ones today.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, so as we said, kind of going back through the bracket, rather, neither team has had an absolutely flawless run, both kind of going up and down in some series. It's not been clean sweeps all the way through, so we're definitely looking at a close competition here, Jay, as you said. So we're expecting big things from both the teams. You can see some of the titles. We've got monthly champs, season 2 challengers in the rival series itself. So lots to look forward to. Obviously, both teams fighting for it. NA already took place yesterday. They know what they've got going on. And EU, it's time to shine, as we got some of our favourite players from across the bubble scene and beyond. And man, I just can't wait to get started, Jay.
Yeah, indeed. The match is just about ready to go, so we're bringing you that action live on your screens in a short moment time. I know you haven't been all around the scene as of late here, Chrome, but I do have to ask you, man, is there any particular team that you're looking forward to seeing, any particular side that you think could potentially win this matchup coming up?
I mean, just from what I remember Godsmiller. We've talked about him a lot over the years, over all of the weekly tournaments, and I think that's just such a standout player for me. I'm really, really looking to see what he's bringing this season, as well as his teammates. So if any bets are going, I think Flomp Resont is my side. But again, I'd have to fire back at you and say, what's the prediction?
I'm going to go Flomp Resont as well. Though and Noli, in particular, are 2 players that I want to highlight. Godsmiller's great, and obviously the veterancy of his sort of experience that will come to the final and label them to, of course, get up to that final little holder that they need to go past the line. But Though and Noli have been looking really scary as of late. They're looking like really scary players to be dealing with. And any team that has to face up against these guys in the rival series and, of course, across the bracket will be having a fun old time to see whether or not they can they can sort of cut the mustard, essentially. Because those 2 guys in particular, they are scary little guys. So yeah, I'm all aboard the Flomp Resont side. It looks like we're ready to get started with our matchup. Again, in the blue side, it will be Flomp Resont, our favorites, potentially your favorites as well. And the Pepepitos Canyons will be over in the orange side. Chrome, my man, let's get this one started.
Well, the EU RLRS play-ins hype train has just left the station, ladies and gentlemen, and Flomp Resont already looking to make the early aggressive plays, though up off the backboard is going to get turned away there by Zamue. Already looking for the second attempt, just both teams sizing each other up here early on. Some defensive rotates coming on in. Zamue looking for the redirect, rocking the Fennec. Actually, Jay, that's something I kind of wanted to quiz you about a little bit. We've seen a lot more, I think, car diversity with some of these recent introductions. Definitely what used to be an Octane Dominus Batmobile set has seen the introduction of the Fennec a lot more. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, if it gets the opportunity to shine with the best player in the world at the moment, I think that's absolutely viable. You know, like that's the only reason why the Fennec is currently in play at the moment. So credit to the boys that want to try and use it, and certainly it can be viable, as has been proven over the course of this one. I think that does highlight how out of the scene you have been.
Yeah.
You were quizzing me about that whole thing. Right now, the striking force for Flomp Resont will not need to rely on the Fennec at all. It's relying all on the skill of Tho and Noli to try to clear back out, but a lot of the pressure still coming in over on the Pepepitos side. They've got a lot to work for, and now Demo's trying to clear out that back line. May even get a goal in, it's going to get blocked.
Big save from Tho. Already lots of physical play. That's what we always love to see here on the broadcast. Lots of demo attempts, and actually demos themselves looking to rough up the goalie a little bit, whoever's in that back post position. But neither team finding the opening just yet. Lots of aerial mid-play, but nothing is quite sticking yet, Jay. Both teams, again, as we say, opening game of the series here. No one's going too hard too soon. And here's the attempt from Ghostfire. It's going to get turned away by Noli. Again, as you said, that whole team there from Flomp Resont, definitely not to be underestimated.
Coordinating well to hold the defense, even though the majority of the pressure has favoured Pepepitos. And eventually that turns into a counter-attack that gets the first on the board. Flomp Resont draw first blood in the RLRS play-ins.
Beautiful. Just a slight misread there from the defense up high as that ball just drops on down in that corner on the ceiling. And as you say, Flomp Resont strikes first. They are going to be feeling pretty good about that one. But again, as we always say, plenty of time left on the clock. Lots of chance for a turnaround or even a complete flump from the Flomps. But just a little bit of spice there. But again, just kind of stalling out. We're starting to see that very familiar phase as we hit towards the middle time on the clock, where the teams are just playing blow for blow, possession for possession. And we're just not quite seeing the stringing together of passes, Jay, that we perhaps would maybe look for the teams to get the ball rolling.
Oh, but Tho finds a breakaway that might not even need a pass here. Great defensive being held out again by the Pepepitos side. And getting those clears coming through. Again, they've had the majority of the pressure throughout most of this matchup here. Even though the goal has gone over to the favor of the boys in blue, it still feels like that the majority of the controllers favor the Pepepitos side. They're currently even up on the shots line, but the saves certainly have come in mostly for Flomp Resont. And accuracy kind of hurts them on their own striking force, whereas the defensive has been forced to fall back to that blue backline and continuing to have the pressure here in that blue half. They should be able to get that clear in eventually, but the rotation should be quicker at the same time for Pepepitos.
Big actually from Zamue, I think, in the midfield, just kind of getting physical, blocking off that clear attempt, just maintaining the pressure, and that's what we do talk about a lot, I think, on broadcast, or at least we certainly used to, is where that pressure can be applied, who it is really hurting. And Noli actually just camping that boost there, Ube having to come from inside the net to try and stop that one. And Flomp Resont, although they may not have complete possession, they are definitely turning the thumb screws here, as Pepepitos looking for something. There's a bump onto on Ube there, and it's not quite found its way in, and it's just out and post. Good attempt from Flomp Resont, but as you say, the accuracy, the finishing, the execution leaves a little something to be desired.
But finally, apparently not finally. I legitimately thought that was going to go in right there, but again, the accuracy going to hurt them as it bounces off the back post, and that is the real sticking point for Flomp Resont. You know, they should pretty much have control of this one with the amount of striking forces they've gotten. The defensive not holding on, but a good clear from the blue half to the orange will not be defended at all. Pepepitos struggling in their rotations for just a moment. It allows a capitalization 2-0.
I mean, that's not exactly the kind of goal you really want to be dropping at this stage. That's just a lob from the midfield, pretty much. All of your players over-rotated slightly in the offensive half. And Pepepitos just looking a little bit caught with their pants down there. And it's 2-0 with a minute left to go. But what we've seen so far from Flomp Resont has been pretty heavy on the defensive, as you say, Jay. The defensive, or the save scoreline, 5-3. You can see that the pressure is there from Pepepitos, but Flomp Resont are rising to the challenge and not quite letting anything through. So for me, game number 1 looking pretty spoken for here.
Yeah, decent defensive hold out by Zamue, however. Still got a chance. I mean, 30 seconds to score 2. It's not impossible. The problem is that the sheer pressure that's being put on by the Pepepitos side is not being able to get these goals. The defensive holding strong for Flomp Resont, and now the time is running really low. I think you might actually be right at this stage. I think they might have just done enough.
I think so. They've held it out. And again, just Godsmiller challenging up right next to the orange net, just keeping that pressure. Ube's gone all the way up, using a lot of boost there. And there's the follow-up from Nolly and Though. Again, just look at this. So the ball is played high, forces that defender to jump up high, use a lot of resources, and then Nolly straight in for that finish there. 3-0 with 5 on the clock, Jay. I think at this point, it may have been a slightly early call, jumping the gun ever so slightly, but now that's looking a bit more definitive. And game number 1 over in the hands of Flomp Resont here.
I mean, to your credit, right, it's still pretty difficult to score 2 in a minute. So, you know, you got to give them a little bit of breathing room. I think at that point, it's absolutely certain, though, for Flomp Resont. 3-0 in game number 1. Pretty impressive, I do say so myself, you know. Again, just their ability to deal with the pressure coming from the Pepepitos. You know, they had the majority of the control and the majority of the ball sort of shot opportunities. You know, even though it does say more on the board for Flomp Resont, you've got to take a look at the qualitative data that we have from the matchup itself. And the end result, I think, was actually that, in theory, Pepepitos probably should have been able to win that one. As it stands, though, they are going to be having to go to game 2 to try and equalize here. Flomp Resont being able to prove what we were talking about with the sheer scariness of Though and Noli as well. You know, those 2 are the top performers in that matchup.
I mean, actually, just taking a look at the stats there, we saw so many more shots from Flomp Resont, but I don't even know if that's indicative of their pressure, because so many of them were missing or kind of wildly inaccurate. So they actually weren't that much of an offensive threat for Pepepitos. So I wonder actually if those stats are slightly misleading in just how much Flomp Resont were able to do. Because as you saw, you know, we had that play for about 30 seconds, 3 consecutive shots, all barring out or woodworking out. So again, finishing, big problem here for Flomp Resont, but clearly they've done just enough to get by in that game number 1 there.
Might be able to start decent on game number 2 as well. That kickoff looking pretty scary, but the defense for... Oh, never mind. I was going to say the defense for Pepepitos looking pretty confident. Without pass in, starting to get those team plays going for Noli and Godsmiller. That's a first being scored in just over 15 seconds.
I mean, again, just that intercept on that long clear from the corner, and then Noli just coming in across. Beautiful teamwork, good coordination to line that strike up. Though not even involved in the play, sitting down on 4 points. His teammates doing the heavy lifting there, but they're still going to be happy with that take home. Godsmiller now just trying to work it out by himself. The air dribble out of defense, interesting. Ube, good challenge, but not quite going to find the post. And back in again, trying to find Zamue in middle. There's Noli, he's going to get the clear out. That's a good touch from Though, slightly off to the corner, and then obviously no one that deep for the blue team. So just going to reset the pace of the game a little bit here as Pepepitos look to try and gain some kind of footing in this struggle.
Yeah, still loving the defense. It's not faltered from Flomp Resont, even though the clears are coming through. A couple of opportunities coming in off the back line to the center line, blocked off by Godsmiller, but only for a second. Mr. Ube can get the strike and get the first goal on the ball for Pepepitos in this series. We're all evened out.
Very good pressure there from Ube, and I think it was Zamue as well, following that big clear from Ghostfire. Again, that's what we want to see from Pepepitos. I think they kind of got a little bit hamstrung in that first game, but they're showing that they can absolutely make those team players work. There's Zamue looking for the ball in from Ube. He's going to get beat out by Though, although ball's still heavily in the blue half. There's the final clear, but look at this, Jay, again, from that pressure, so much over-rotation on Pepepitos. They're going a little bit too confident there, and perhaps overstepping their boundaries a little bit.
Now, they only overcommitted once in the last game, and now this is a bit more of an obvious breakaway that had most players pushed up to the midfield line. You know, I think Digital Bacon sort of summed it up in the way you towards rotations, that you have like a triangle formation from your teammates, where you always have 2 players in the offense or at least 2 players in the defense. And well, that triangle sort of like fell to pieces at one point there for the Pepepitos side. It once again allows Flomp Resont to take the lead here at 2-1. And again, the kickoff will go well, relatively speaking, for Pepepitos. They're going to get those first couple strikes of this phase in, but not able to get the goals and the clears. Now starting to look deadly accurate from Flomp Resont. We talked about how the finishing issues were coming through for them. Now they're starting to look like that's not a problem at all.
I mean, yeah, just looking at those kind of backboard clears, even from Godsmiller and Noli, I think it was, or maybe Though, those are finding those players in the midfield with greater accuracy, and that's what we've seen them convert off of, actually, those longer passing plays. Someone jumps up in the midfield and they either lobs it over the top of the defense or again redirects it to a third in the corner. But that's what we like from Flomp Resont. They're starting to kind of find their groove here a bit, Jay. We did talk, as you mentioned, about those kind of accuracy problems, but there it is. Laser beam into the upper 90 there from Though, and that's going to take them to 3-1. Pepepitos not out of reach, but again, Flomp Resont looking much more formidable now.
Yeah, 3-1. Again, those accuracy issues just completely gone away. That's terrifying as well for the Pepepitos side, because when they've had their opportunities at the blue half, they haven't been able to score. Now every opportunity seems to go well for Flomp Resont, so they've ironed out all the kinks and they're looking really dominant, potentially even going to score a fourth off here off the back of Noli's shot. It is defended off the backboard, fortunately enough. Another clear away breakaway can come through with Zami, but quick responses all the same from Flomp Resont, now clearing from the backboard and, not necessarily denying the shots coming through from Pepepitos, but denying those follow-ups, which may actually be even more valuable for a defensive like this.
I wonder actually what we're seeing, I think a little bit here from both teams, although more specifically Pepepitos, is it's a big kind of booming clear, but on the side of Pepepitos, no one's really following it up, whereas we're seeing from Flomp Resont, a big clear, but someone's in the midfield or someone's hovering, looking to try and string a second pass out of it. So maybe that's a question of possession there. Now we're starting to see Flomp Resont put the pressure on a little bit more, stay in this orange half for a little bit longer. But there you see, there's the connection from Ube, trying to find something. But again, look at this. Noli gets the big clear, and there's immediately someone chasing him, or he's chasing his own ball. So big pressure coming out from Flomp Resont, and still just maintaining their defensive strength, really.
Yeah, all of those rotations again. The passing players, meanwhile, from the Pepepitos side is not necessarily going all that well for them. They have had a couple opportunities that have been wasted. That pass towards the mid-center in particular kind of highlights where Pepepitos could have had an opportunity to strike right there from that midfield, but or not to be in this case, and Flomp Resont can take full control of it. There's still 2 goals up for them as well. Pepepitos need to find something quick if they want to try and bring this back in game 2. Because remember, this is a best of 5. So once Flomp Resont win this, they'll be on match point and 1 game away from making it into the RLRS. And so far for them, they're making it look pretty easy.
Oh, it's a beautiful wall pinch. Just turned away by Ghostfire. Yeah, bang on, Jay. They are looking pretty lethal right now. They're finding that rhythm. Even starting to see some of the flick attempts, the air dribbles, the flip reset attempts I think we saw from Noli. But again, Pepepitos just haven't really found that rhythm. Their passing plays are kind of not existent, really, as much as Flomp Resont's are. Again, look at that. Noli with the handoff to Though. Again, the double touch. Just looking to dunk it down. Denied on the line by Zamue. And that's just the lethality that Flomp Resont are putting up here. Strange little double commit there. Maybe 2 to crowd. But again, they're holding that defensive line. Looking at the saves again, still 5-4. And lots of shots coming out. 8 for Flomp Resont and only 6 for Pepepitos. Again, the blue pressure seems to be rather overwhelming here for Pepepitos.
And it looks like it will overwhelm them to the end of this game. Nice play from Zami to try and get it past 1, but you can see immediately how Noli knows how to handle himself. Not even allowing a chance for Pepepitos to score. Almost a fake out there from Zami, but it bounced off the backboard. So in the end, there will not be any such goals coming in for Pepepitos. It's 2-0 for Flomp Resont here in the best of 5. They're now on match point. And again, they're making it look pretty easy, Like, I thought, honestly, that there would be more performance coming out from the Pepepitos side, but, we talked about how scary Though can look. We talked about how scary Noli can look, and right now, they are just proving it right there. Again, they are the top 2 players in that. 600 points for Noli, 6 shots on target. Now that offensive pressure is looking really good for Flomp, and again, it is starting to look very accurate as well. Pepepitos just can't seem to keep pace.
And that's the thing. We kind of talked at the start about maybe Gosmiller being the front man of the team, but absolutely Noli and those showing not to kind of be underestimated. They are absolutely pulling their own weight. And that's kind of the genius of a team that has that holy trinity that you can rely on every single man to get involved, offense, defense. You're not relying on any one anchor for any particular part of the field. And that's the danger we're seeing there. Whereas Pepepitos haven't quite found that rhythm. It seems to be mainly Ube in kind of Ghostfire in defense, Zamue in the midfield, sometimes upfield. But in terms of a kind of solid 3-man rotation where every man can do everything, I think we're not quite seeing them bring that to the same level as Flomp Resont here. And again, Jay, it's just, they're looking so good right now, the boys in blue. Oh, and
they absolutely are. Unfortunately, what's not looking good is the Cervic. He just went down for maintenance.
That is, yeah.
That's fine. It does mean that we can, have a quick moment to sort of like just break this one down a little bit further. But I think at the moment, like, things are looking pretty decisive. Like it just looks like Flomp Resont are going to secure this one with a 3-0 sweep. And again, I was expecting a closer affair. I'm not sure if I'm pleasantly surprised or just kind of, more shocked than anything else that this is going to be this one-sided. Flomp again, Noli and Tho have been just playing out of their minds lately. It's the one thing that we always focused on coming into this playoffs is the fact that yes, they are looking like a very deadly sort of side, and that's exactly what they're looking like right now. A very, very deadly sort of team, and they're proving it. They are just dominating their opponents at the moment.
And that's kind of what that's what the Rival Series is looking to kind of promote. It's those teams that can kind of take that upper edge and just work with that, find that extra little bit of hunger that there's just burning inside them, and then apply that. Because just looking at the bracket here, I know I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but and we were both expecting it to be a little bit closer, but Flomp Resont, out of their 4 series they've played so far, only one of them was a contested best of 5. The other three were all walkovers. Whereas Pepepitos 2-3 or 3-2, 3-2, 3-1, 3-0. So again, they've kind of been pushed a little bit more, maybe not quite as confident in the early stage of the day. And then obviously with a team like Flomp Resont that has that self-backing, has the confidence to go for those balls and say, look, we deserve to be here. Maybe that's just a little bit of a psychological factor that's putting them ahead right now.
Yeah, and fair play to Godsmiller as well. He's happy to take a back seat for this matchup. Usually he probably might be used to being sort of like the main man of the of his side, but right now he's kind of playing the supportive element. He's playing, to try and support his teammates to be able to shine. So they're having a great time right now in that respect, and Gods has absolutely no problems by taking that rather backseat kind of role. And you can see the players currently just getting themselves into the server, getting the server checked out as well, so we can get on with our next matchup, obviously. This isn't live, of course. I mean, if it was, then we might have Pepepitos actually in the server at the moment. But even so, regardless, taking a look at this one, it does look pretty confident from the boys over on Flomp Resont. I'm not sure of a way out here for Pepepitos. Again, they've got to try and find a way to break down that defensive, I think, more than anything else. Maybe they might have to bring some bump plays or what's it, demo players sort of to try and sort of just break the backline a little bit. They kind of need to at the moment.
I was surprised actually because we didn't really see much of that in the second game as much as we did the first game. We made a point that we were seeing a lot of aggressive moves towards the defense in particular, where it's bumping goalies, demoing, those hovering around that back post. That second game really didn't have a whole lot of that. It was much more focused on the midfield game, those long clears coming in. Where's the follow-up? Is there a second connection? Is there a redirect? So maybe that's something that Pepepitos can look at, maybe restructure their play towards a little bit, because right now, if they just let it sit, Flomp Resont are definitely going to be the favourites to take the series.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I can't really see a viable way out unless they make some serious changes to the way that they're pacing themselves. Again, we need to see some good passing plays. We need to see them breaking down the defensive at the moment. And we need to see them looking a lot more confident over on the Pepepitos side. So let's see if they can make it happen. All the players are now joined up. They are ready and they are happy with the service circumstances. They are happy to get on with the third game, potentially the final game as well if Flomp Resont have it. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this side to be as scary as it actually is here, Chrome. So I'm pleasantly surprised at what's to happen. And again, you start to think about Method and ARG waiting in the wings, watching this kind of match, like, okay, this actually might be something we have to contend with.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that often you get teams that, or players that restructure themselves into teams where you don't really give them a second thought, but then they actually can come out on a day like this and prove that they really do deserve to be playing with the best of them. So that's what this is kind of all about, I suppose, as an event within the scene. So that's really, it's always really heartening to see those teams come out and actually show what they're capable of against all odds, or against public opinion or anything like that. So yeah, really, really happy actually that we're getting something like that, even in our first series of the day, man.
Indeed, yes. Well, again, if you're just joining us, technical break, 2-0 right now for Flomp Resont. They're about to get into the third game, potentially their final game as well of this matchup. And if they win, they will be in the rival series for Season 8. As we kick things off, it is again offensive pressure coming from Pepepitos, but can they maintain it against Flomp Resont? Again, we need to see a lot more pressure, and most importantly, a piece of pressure play that actually ends up breaking down the defensive in order to get that first goal of Pepepitos.
You said, about that triangle, the rotational triangle. right now we're seeing Flomp Resont at least hold their own rotational structure pretty well. We've already seen a couple of major overcommits from Pepepitos, which have actually ended up in a disaster for them. So they need to try and focus on maintaining their own rotational structure, whereas they're looking to break down that of Flomp Resont. Although it's another breakaway for Though. He does seem to be finding those with surprising ease. There's a good aerial bump, but Zamue on the backboard to take that one away. And already, look, you see 2 men behind the ball on defense for Flomp Resont and 1 already challenging. So, Jay, this is just, to me, that screams drilled rotation and kind of good execution when it comes to that side of play.
Right now, drilled offensive coming through as well from Flomp Resont. You can see that now they're really outpacing their opponents when it comes to the pressure. That was the one thing we praised Pepepitos the most for in game 1, and now it looks like that's exactly what's happening here on the other end of the field. Plays out from Ghostfire, might also fake it out, but no, Godsmiller with such good reads on the defensive. Again, he's happy to take a bit more of a supporting role in this team, allow Noli to strike. Doesn't almost make it in there, but no.
Again, just big blocks, lots of pressure being applied to Pepepitos in their own goal box, really, more than anything else. Though has the chance for the double touchdown. Gonna leave it off the waterfall, and then Nolly to finish it. Man, just all 3 of them, again, involved in the play, but Godsmiller immediately rotating away, giving the other 2 the space to work, and Nolly just finds the angle, sends it home, and Flomp Resont are coming out in full force here, Jay. They know it's game 3, they know they're playing for a spot in the RLRS. That's what they're hungry for, and they are hunting it down with absolutely no remorse.
Zamue, again, keeping that pressure going for Pepepitos, but they need to find not only pressure, but a goal, because they are 1-0 down, and in 3 minutes' time, that will mean that Godsmiller and the boys will be in the RLRS again. With the pressure coming through over to that orange half, Godsmiller just happy to harass the backline rather than go for a goal here. And again, that just puts even more pressure for Pepepitos to try and shine out here. We will get breakaway, but again, just look at how much breathing room they're giving to Flomp Resont to try and get the clears through.
Yeah, it's just, I think, almost too much respect being kind of given here by Pepepitos. They need to back themselves a little bit more, get up in the grill of Flomp Resont. There we go, there's a good aggressive bump there, I believe, from Ube to try and clear out some space. That's what we need to see a little bit more of. These guys taking some of that self-confidence into their own hands, not just letting themselves get stepped on by Flomp Resont. Because as we know, as we've seen, Flomp are completely able of putting those double touches or those dunks down and send those goals home. We need to see a little bit more self-confidence here from Pepepitos.
All out the sideboard, and a little bit of pressure coming in once again. It's going to get clear, and you talk about the opportunities being presented to Mr. Ube and co, but you see how quickly that Flomp Resont are able to return to the orange backboard, and it's like, well, what much does it do? They are able to get a couple clears out to the midfield, but they can't take it much further than that because Flomp Resont are happy to hold the midfield control and not allow any opportunity, essentially, for Pepepitos to even break much further than the midfield line. And that will allow shots like this to come through. It almost went in. Mr. Ube barely with a touch to keep it out, so the confidence starting to fade away from Pepepitos, and again, that just works wonders for Flomp Resont at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if we look at boost control, Flomp Resont are so far up in the orange half, they're actually taking the back boosts from the orange team. And Ube, nice, unfortunately, can't get on the good side of that, though going to find the goal there. But he was doing so well, he was sitting pretty because his team had already covered the mid boost, the back boost. There are no resources available for Pepepitos, and that's where they find themselves kind of stuck in this constant hell of shot bombardment with no way out of it.
Yeah, nicely played. Very nicely played there from Though to control. And as you were mentioning boost management, right, he managed that perfectly to solo himself past 2 50-50s and on the backboard. So perfect right now from Flomp Resont. They were looking good and scary in games 1 and 2. Now they're looking unstoppable in game 3. Thank goodness this is the final match of their particular bracket and their string. Because I'd be terrified for any other team has to look at this and say, we've got to play them later. Well, 60 seconds to go, and still that 2-0 as Pepepitos just get to the backboard. It's cleared out by Goddard and Slow so quickly here to return back. They won't be able to get that goal in, but again, it's just time being wasted on the part of Flomp Resont. That's absolutely sufficient for the moment.
Absolutely, and even then, even now that Ghostfire and boys have got some boost, they're still really not making much of it. They need to get something out of these attempts. Oh, what a back away by Nolly. The handoff, Godsmiller. It's just so clinical now from Flomp Resont. We kind of criticised them early doors for not being particularly strong with their finishes, their executions, not quite as clinical as we see some other teams. But now they're starting to step it up. They're finding the passes, finding the connections, taking it away from Pepepitos step by step. 10 seconds left on the clock here, Jay. And I have a feeling we're looking at an RLRS qualified team here on Flomp Resont.
Indeed we are, and they made it look easy, is the best part about it for Flomp Resont and their players and their fans, because it was not a contest for the most part. Very nicely played with pressure that was so well defended against and returning back. They had a couple issues in that first game, 1 and 2, but ever since they sorted out those problems, no issues for Flomp Resont. They are in the RLRS as the first team from Europe, now through the bracket and into the final 10.
I mean, just looking at the stats, man, that was such a dominating game. We saw 7 shots from Flomp Resont. We had 1 save from Pepepitos, whereas there were 4 shots from Pepepitos and 4 saves on Flomp Resont. So that just kind of gives you a little bit of an indication. The defensive shutdown that was the boys in blue there. The RLRS qualifying team of Do, Nolly, and Godsmiller. They are moving on up in the world. Unfortunately, it is commiserations to Pepepitos there. But, I mean, I think that was pretty much what we were seeing throughout the series there, Jay. Flomp Resont were just a kind of a notch above right there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like they looked confident, and that's the best part to have in a matchup like this. You know, to have your opportunity, that glory in the RLRS be down to a best of 3 that you take 3-0. Obviously, it does wonders for your mentality games. And the Flomp Resont, obviously, congratulations are in order for them. It's not quite over for their opponents in the Pepepitos Canyons, because of course they do have to go for that lower bracket. So we might be seeing them later on stream today. But we do have more matches from the upper bracket. We have 2 more to go from the upper bracket. But just to give you a bit of an update on the other match that we weren't going to show on stream, the Big Brain Gamers versus the Discombobulators. Discombobulators took that matchup, and they are now 3-1 up going into the rival series to join Flomp Resont as the second team through our bracket today. Big stuff being shown up at the moment.
Absolutely. Still lots to come, though, on the stream. Lots of exciting games still to come, both on and off. As you mentioned, Jay, some of the big names may or may not be appearing on the silver screen, but they are still there. You can have confidence that they're still doing their thing. But in the meantime, guys, we are going to head to a really short break just while we get the next set of games set up for you. So don't go anywhere. Make sure you grab a beverage and a snack. Sit comfy, and we'll be right back in just a couple of minutes.